Is it visible? Slides, quiz one.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. So we just, I think this revision I'll skip today. We are slightly late, but always keep a revision of this, this quizzes and sometime whatever was discussed last time. So quickly, can you tell me name of some semiconductor switching devices?
Transistors, MOSFETs, diodes.
Right, MOSFET, diodes, bipolar junction transistor, right? Then we'll be learning IGBT, okay, triac, GTO, SCR. We'll learn these devices slowly. Okay, good. Right. Then what we did is we try to understand. So you remember we talked about three important seals. One is conversion, another is control, another was conditioning, and we wanted to learn more about this conditioning. So I just took you to a journey basically, where I showed you that how to solve this pulsating output voltage and how to make it flat DC output voltage using filtering elements so that our load can see a flat or pure DC kind of waveform. So we first added a capacitor and we figured out that this initially the capacitor will be uncharged, and as soon as I turn on the switch, so this DC voltage source will will try to suddenly charge the capacitor to 100 volt quickly, right? And since two voltage source will come in parallel, and as a result, you may have a very high current surge, and that can damage your switch. So to prevent that, what we added an inductor, but then again we found a problem that when switch is off, the inductor current had to go to zero instantaneously, and that will lead up to high inductor voltage surge, right? LDIDT, famously known as this LDIDT problem. Okay. So then to solve this, we added a diode here so that inductor current can flow through the diode. Please note this diode polarity, anode this side, cathode this side. Okay, and that is how we are happy with this. So till this, it will work fine, no problem. Okay, but then I wanted to show you some practical insight into these circuits. Till now, you have what generally we assume this to be an ideal source, right? Ideal DC power supply. But in practice, you generally don't get an ideal DC power supply. One example is battery. So in battery, how do I model? It is an ideal DC source with a small internal resistance. So we understood that if we have pulsating kind of current, so when I turn on the switch, I'll have some current flowing through this. When switch is off, current has to go to zero, right? So we have a kind of pulsating current flowing into battery. Whereas ideally, I want battery current to be flat DC because DC average value will contribute to my output power, right? Or finally, how much power I am taking from the battery, that will come from the average value. But I am sending a pulsating current whose RMS will be more than the average value. IRMS will be more than I average, and that will lead to additional losses in this battery internal resistance. And as you know, loss will be dissipated in terms of heat, so battery will get heated up. And generally, these resistances or parasitic thing, they have a positive temperature coefficient. So as temperature builds up, resistance will also build up, and then it leads to additional losses, then thermal problem inside the battery, right? So I should allow only that amount of current which is actually responsible for the power transfer. There is no point of sending extra current, right, which does not do any meaningful work. So then we understood if I add a capacitor here in parallel to the DC source, right, then this capacitor can give us that pulsating AC current. So we divided this actual switch current into two parts. One is average value, this green one, and an AC value having average 0. So if battery is supposed to provide the green part, then someone has to provide that red part, which is basically that AC part. And we understood that Resistance is not a good solution. Inductance is also not a good solution, but capacitor can give you this solution, right? Now, I'll give you some more insight into it. Please pay attention here, and uh, please note that I am not boasting, but issue is that this knowledge is kind of gathered in after working in this field for roughly 10 years, building hardware setup on this. So if you ask me, sir, give us some reference manual to study this, it will be very difficult for me because all these things are gathered from different sources, right? I don't have a single source where I can just refer you and tell you, see, read this, you will get this. It's very difficult. Nah? Along the line, you will understand this knowledge. Most of it comes from a lot of experience working actually on the hardware. So on this ground, I'll tell you some another example. Okay, just listen carefully. So remember, we added an inductor this side. Okay, and we understood when switch is turned off, then inductor current does not have any path, and as a result, inductor voltage, which is L di dt. So we understood di dt. How do I visualize? It is I2 minus I1 by T2 minus T1. So change in time by change in voltage, that ratio. So current has to go to zero when switch is off almost instantaneously. This kind of semiconductor switches that you have to appreciate. These are semiconductor switches. Do you have any idea how long they take to turn on and off? Most probably you don't have idea, but still I'm asking. How long they take to turn on and off? Typically, they are turned on, TURN, on and off. This will happen basically in maybe nanoseconds. Okay, very short time. They'll be able to turn on and turn off also. I'll show you in some other slide. So this time will be very short, maybe in nanoseconds, so 10 power minus 9, or 1 or 2 order here and there. This current I2 finally has to go to 0. I1 was some value, maybe say 10 ampere or so. So this is basically minus 10 by 10 power minus 9. So you can understand it is negative. So observation is BL is negative and it is very high value. Ideally, it is infinite. Very high value. So I should provide a path, and we did this so that inductor current get a path to flow. It doesn't go to 0. Now, same problem can happen here if I had an inductor in this branch. You need to agree on this. There is no other option, right? So if any inductor comes here, then same problem will appear, right? When switch is off, then again this inductor current will see a problem. So I'm talking about an inductor which is on the primary side. Now you will tell that, sir, I want to connect a battery. I don't want to put an inductor. Fine, that is what we do. We don't put this inductor deliberately. We don't, most of the cases, for buck converter. Some other converter we put deliberately. We don't want it most of the time. So it comes unintentionally, right? And we call it parasitic inductance. So then you can ask a question. I have a battery. I have just connected the battery to my this input of this converter. So from where this parasitic inductance is coming. Okay. So try to visualize. Think about the electric vehicle. Okay, practical example. So do you think your battery and the motor controller or this power electronic converter will be very close to each other? Physically try to understand. Can you put, because you understand, let me show you. Electric vehicle, if this is the body, kind of this. Okay. Generally, battery will be placed here. Distributed fashion. Remember, battery cannot be, it is kind of a arranged in this fashion. It is distributed on the leg space completely, because you want your center of gravity to be lower and you want it to be like this. There are several other reasons. We'll come back later. and your motor could be somewhere here. And a motor controller, depending on the space, it could be somewhere here. Sorry, maybe somewhere here, somewhere near to the motor, sometime this side. Depends on where you want to put. Mostly it will be here, somewhere. So this zone, you have to connect by an wire. Okay. I'll show you some practical example also. So this wire could be few feet, maybe 1 meter also sometime. Now, how do we visualize wire, electrical wire? In our back of mind, from first year knowledge, electrical wires should be drawn something like this, right? So this is an ideal wire. But in practice, it will have small resistance, very small, and little bit of inductance. Remember, these are unwanted. Because anywhere, it cannot be 100% ideal, right? Unwanted. Wanted. So this is one source where you are getting, how you are getting this parasitic inductance I am referring to. Because from battery terminal to your power electronic converter input, you have to connect with sometime with a long wire. If you can put them very close to each other, this value will be almost 0. But in real practice, you will never be able to do that, because generally it will be kind of, it will have some distance in between. So that is one source from where you are getting this parasitic inductance. Second source, even if you are keeping your source very close to input of your converter, from the PCB layout design, which you won't be able to understand much. Once you start designing PCB layout, you will understand. See, all these components, switching devices, inductor, you have to, most of the power electronic switches you have to put in a PCB, right? I showed you one picture in the first class. And you have to then from switch, different switch, then you have to make a track, right? So that current can pass through the PCB, and different switches will be there. So those track also, they contribute to this track. Okay, PCB layout, this track, they also contribute to parasitic inductance. Now, one thing I would like to note to you is that the value of this parasitic inductance will be very, very less. Okay, maybe nanohenry or even lesser sometime. Fine. But only issue is that the DT, you remember, even though this L will be very small, parasitic, even if it is very, very small, but the overall product of L DIDT, because sometime you will be switching this current in hundreds of ampere, right? And this could be in nanosecond or something. So you'll figure out this product may not be very small. Okay. Later part, you'll see that we'll talk about wide bandgap devices. They can switch on and off even faster. And as the time progresses, we are trying to get more semiconductor devices whose turn on, turn off time is even much lesser. Okay. So this time is getting shorter day by day, whereas most of the time we are increasing this so that you can have a high power kind of solution in a compact space, right? So this product may not be very small. Okay. So this is also one reason that to solve this, what we should do, we should put a capacitor as close to possible to your semiconductor device. As close as possible to semiconductor devices or input of converter. Do you understand, or do you have any question here? So that, see, if any unwanted inductance is coming here, this capacitor will be able to negate it. So basically, physically try to understand between these two, there should not be any inductance, or it should be very, very less.
So can you again explain the negation part?
Okay. Should not be any L coming. Which part you want me to repeat?
Yeah, how is that
how
negating
putting capacitor helps?
Yeah, how does that help? Yeah.
Yeah. See, now if I our main problem was that if I don't put this capacitor, circuit was something like this. I don't know whether it is coming fast or not. So I have a switch like that, and then some other circuit. Are you seeing this circuit diagram?
Yes, sir.
So I turn on the switch, there will be some current in the circuit, right? But as soon as I turn off the switch, this inductor current doesn't have any path to flow. You agree?
Yeah, right.
So what will happen to this LDIDT? That you physically try to understand. In very short amount of time, I want inductor current to go to zero, right?
It will blow up.
Basically, this extra voltage will appear across your switch. If you apply KVL, you will easily understand, right? And that can damage your switch. But if I put a capacitor here, okay, so then this inductor current always has a path to flow, right? There is no LDIDT problem coming in. I remember I don't want any inductor here. That I should take care. That's why I said this capacitor should be very close to physically, right? Physically very close to your switching device terminal. Is that clear?
But even if it is not physically close to the switching device, what could be the problem?
See, right now it might be difficult for you to visualize if how you are connecting this capacitor terminal to the switch terminal. What is there in between? That you try to realize. How are you connecting this? In circuit diagram, it is an ideal wire, right? Zero resistance, zero inductance.
Yeah.
But practically think about it. What will be there in between?
Some inductance, like the already in resistance.
Now forget about inductance. How they are connected? What is a physical thing in between them?
Oh, the wire.
Either wire or PCB track. Do you understand?
Yes.
So those things in our mind are they're ideal, right? But in practice, they may not be ideal. And in most of the cases, they won't be. That's why you need to take care.
Okay.
One thing I would like to appreciate, I mean, I would like you to appreciate further. See, till now, most of you have studied a typical maybe power system or where we talk about 50 Hz signal, right? Which is just 20 millisecond time period, isn't it? But in power electronics, we are talking about switching frequency in terms of 100 kilohertz, at least 10 to 50 kilohertz in that zone. Some recent devices can switch in megahertz also. So try to appreciate their time, right? In millisecond, so millisecond is quite large for us actually. Okay, so just divide this number by one, right? So 1 by frequency, you know, is time period. Right, so try to understand in what time frame we are talking about. We are talking about in nanoseconds, right? It's not millisecond or second. So you have to go into that depth to really appreciate this. Okay, all of you please note this. We are talking about power electronic converter where I want to switch in several kilohertz. And recently people are talking about megahertz also. So you just divide it by 1 megahertz. So this is your time period. And switch on and off transient, that should be at least 10 to 20 times lesser than this time period. Okay, so Fs is switching frequency. One by Fs is time period of switching, of one switching, right? And T on transient. So basically, you imagine something like this. I want a switch to turn on and turn off like this. So I want a switch to turn on here at say t equal to 0. And let's say t equal to some t1, I want it to turn on. And then at t equal to t2, I want it to turn on again. So this is an ideal, this is my expectation. But in practice, what you will see that as soon as you want it to turn on, it will have certain amount of delay actually. It may not exactly turn on at the same time. So those time transient, I'm talking about this turn on transient, turn off transient, this. So this is the switching time, right? How you change your state from off to on or on to off. those time frames should be, so if this is TS, this should be much lesser than TS. Maybe at least 10 times, 10 to 100 times. So just try to imagine in your brain what time frame we are talking about. And that is the reason even small inductance is creating a problem for us. Had it been a 100 Hertz, 50 Hertz system, I would not have simply bothered about this. But what we are dealing with is a very small time frame. Okay. Please, all of you try to understand this, and you need to appreciate this. Otherwise, all this discussion does not make any sense. You will say, sir, 1 millihenry or 1 nanohenry inductor, how should I bother about it? I should bother because we are talking about quite decent amount of voltage, decent amount of current, and very short amount of time. Okay, that creates this LDIDT issue very seriously. Okay, so let me quickly give you one more example, and then I just leave this topic for your imagination. Okay, so I told you why we need this input capacitor. One reason was battery point of view. Why input C is required. Battery point of view, I understand that internal resistance. Second is this LDIDT problem, right? Parasitical. It is not wanted thing. You have to understand parasitic. Third, if you're talking about some source like solar photovoltaic, okay. See, generally we don't discuss it too much, but what I want is that you should get ready with some recent application, and you can understand solar photovoltaic is actually DC source, right? But it is not an ideal current source or not an ideal voltage source, and it wants, or rather, it should have continuous input current to extract maximum possible power from it. Okay, you may not understand this term. We'll slowly discuss some other day. Basically, if I want to draw the IV characteristics of a solar cell, remember why I'm talking about solar cell? It is a renewable energy and it is a hot topic now. Okay, this is I versus V. Solar cell IV curve looks something like this. Okay, and its PV curve looks something like this. This is P versus V. The red one is I versus V. So what you need to understand, how do you understand this graph? Is that at different point of time, you see, if you apply different voltage, let us say this is 100 volt, and this will be around 80 volt. Just ratio I'm telling you. Okay, this could be say 30 volt, and this current, if it is 10 ampere, the this ISC, we call it this maximum current. This, let's say it is 10 ampere. Then this point of current, it could be around 8.5 or something ampere. You understand difference? This starting point will be higher slightly, and then this point where this power is maximum, okay, that will be around 80 to 85%. So this is a peculiar behavior about solar photovoltaic. So do you remember I talked about some extra classes? If you allow me, then maybe I would have discussed this in more detail, because this is again an interesting area of research. Okay, so here you try to understand, if my current is only this value 8.5 ampere, then I can extract maximum power. If my current goes to 0, which is this line, current goes to 0 means this line. This is the point when I equal to 0, right? You see, I is on this line, so I will be 0, 1, 2, dot, 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 10n. So I0 means we are at this point. How much power I am extracting from solar? It is 0. I0 power output from solar is also 0, 0, 1. Okay. So now you understand, if I have a solar is represented by this symbol. And I have a switch like this. So sometime when switch is on, my current will look something like this. When switch is off, current goes like this. On, off. So you can understand when switch is off, how much power I am extracting from solar is 0. Okay, because current will go to 0. I always want my solar current to be continuous at this value, which is called maximum power point value. Okay, MPP value. All right. So I want my input current to be at this value so that I can extract maximum power always possible. But if I have this kind of fluctuating current, you can understand. Sometime I'll be able to extract power, and once switch is off, I'll be able to extract 0 amount of power. So even though solar power is available, I won't be able to take out. So to solve this, what we do, we put a capacitor here. Right? So even when switch is off, this current is not going to be 0. Okay? Because then still solar will be able to charge the capacitor, and when switch is on, both solar and the capacitor charge will be able to give it to the load. So this way it will balance out. Okay, if solar power will be still able to maintain near about this desired point continuously. Okay, so I am not sure whether you have got everything very clearly, because this itself needs one complete lecture. I just try to give you a glimpse that why I should add a capacitor here for solar photovoltaic system. Because I don't want my solar current to be this kind of pulsating. Solar current 0 means solar power I am extracting is also 0. That means I am not utilizing the solar at all properly, right? So when switch is off, solar should give current to somewhere, right? So it can charge the capacitor. When switch is on, both of them can discharge, right? So that it can still work in a manner we want. So remember this. If you require, think about it. Well, next class I'll again come back, because these are some very basic point of power electronic converter. And this is again a very important. I told you last class also. You cannot skip this. Okay. So I told you to do a homework, right? Is there anyone who could do it?
So I0 is V0 by L.
Let me try to draw what I can't see properly now. So if this is V0, sorry, V in or V, when switch is on, actually both the same, right? This is, let's say, V in or VL. Now tell me.
So it's like Vm by omega L whole into 1 minus cos omega t.
Vm by omega L whole into 1 minus
Cos omega t.
Okay. This is when you are turning on T equal to switch your S on when T equal to 0, right? 0 second here. So how it will look like?
So the cos graph will start at 0, 0, and then it will be completely above the positive line.
Okay. So let us try to draw the cos graph.
No.
Maybe something like
So
this.
shouldn't it be IL instead of I0?
Okay, we'll come back. Yes. I think I made a mistake. If I want to draw a cos form, basically it goes like this, then this, Sorry for my poor drawing. This will be the cos version, cos omega t. Okay, and so minus cos omega t will be basically this. Okay, you get it. Huh? This could be minus cos omega t, which is basically what we want ideally, right? Plus, but you can see there is one added term. Plus, of course, this is Vm by omega thing. You have to check this expression. I am yet to check. I don't remember exactly. I have to work it out. Omega L. So this is an offset that you have to add with this waveform, and you will figure out this actually this offset depends on the time or angle at which you are turning on the switch. Okay. So if you are turning on the switch, if you're turning on the switch at t equal to 0, so I'll call it at this t equal to t0, basically at 0. So you'll see the current is never going to negative. Okay, it will be something like this only. I have to check the frequency, etc. Basically, this waveform will be shifted, right? This minus omega will be shifted to this value. That will be your I0 part. And sorry, no, this it will be. It will start from 0 because it cannot start from vertically value. It will be something like this. Again. Okay, this waveform will be basically kind of this looking. So this is when you switch on at t equal to 0 or theta equal to 0. But if you can switch on here, this is 90 degree, right? T equal to 1 by 4 t maybe, right? Because this will be your entire t time period. So if you can switch on at 1 by 4 t, basically at 90 degree, you will see current like this, which is what we learned. Okay, this is.
So the offset will be always such that the current at the time of switching is 0.
Yes, it has to,
Offset
right?
will be
Because
like,
initially current was 0.
the offset will be like, I think, cos omega t naught, like where t naught is the switching time.
Actually, you
Cos
solve this
omega
equation.
t,
I have to check it. Huh? Bolo. If you want, I can work out and give you some mathematical expression. I forget this. Just solve it out, or else I can work it out and I can give it to you. But what I want to show you is that this you never should blindly tell current will be lagging the voltage, right? In this kind of switching circuit, it depends exactly at when you are turning on the switch. Based on that, that integration offset will get decided if you solve it. Okay. So if you turn it at t equal to 0, your current you see it is never going to 0. But if you turn it at 90 degree, it will start from this because you're turning on the switch here, and then it will follow that our desired path. Okay. But how do you verify this? One is, of course, you do mathematical analysis. Second is you do MATLAB simulation or any other simulation. Okay. Other software. So I want you to learn MATLAB because you know in power electronic lab we are going to use MATLAB simulation. So study this. So there you try to replicate this circuit, right? I take an ideal voltage source, ideal switch, even ideal inductor. But what you'll figure out, maybe MATLAB, the way it implements switch may not be 100% ideal. You have to check. Huh? Just try to remember if there is even a small resistance coming in this resistance will come because your inductor is not ideal. Some small parasitic inductor will come in here. Switch is not ideal. Some resistance will come here. The source is not ideal. This wire connecting, these are not ideal. So some resistance inductance will come into picture. As soon as you have some resistance, okay, this offset, basically you understood this offset may look something like this, right? So maybe this could be your that 90-degree part. So initially the offset is high, positive value. 90-degree it will become exactly 0, right? So that offset, if you as soon as you put some resistance into your circuit, you will see this offset. If everything is ideal, this offset will remain at that value. So let me go back. If you don't have any non-ideal element in your circuit, your current looks like this till infinite duration. But if it has some resistance, due to resistance decaying property, right? It will start consuming power and some energy will be lost there. There you will see this slowly. You will start with this graph initially, but eventually you will end up with this graph, which exactly maybe your phase angle will be. It won't be exactly 90-degree. Due to resistance, it will have some shift, right? It will be slightly lesser than 90-degree. But eventually, you will end up with this kind of graph after some time, once it reaches the so-called steady state that you have studied in your theory class. Is that okay? Or do you understand why it is physically happening? Or you have any different view on this? Anyone? What I'm trying to understand from you is that whether do you agree? Or, what I understood, most of you got this waveform, right? Can you just tell me whether you have come to this conclusion or not? All of you who differs with this. I can't hear.
Sir,
Go ahead.
so could you please explain what did you do after getting that expression of IL like in the graph?
See, this expression is what you gave me, right? I am yet to verify.
Yeah, I got that expression, but I didn't understand what did you do after that.
So how do you plot this equation?
So it will be 0 at omega t equal to 2n pi.
Right. So you got this waveform, right? This top waveform, did you get?
Yes, sir, that green color one.
Right. Top one, right? Then what I told you is that this expression is valid only when you are turning on the switch at t equal to 0 second. Basically at theta equal to 0. Okay. Now, see, I can turn on my switch at any point of time, right? This is my source. I have the switch and inductor. Now, what I'm trying to show you is that instead of turning on the switch at t equal to 0, if I had turned on the switch at t equal to 9, this 1/4 of time period. So let's say if this entire duration is 20 milliseconds as per Indian switching frequency cycle, right? So this 1/4 will be 5 milliseconds. If you have turned on the switch at this instant, when your source voltage is at its peak, 90-degree, then what would happen to this offset? Will it remain same or it will change?
So it will vertically move downwards to start from 0 because it will the current.
So this offset will go to 0, right?
Yes.
So you will end up with this lower waveform,
Sir,
which is bolo.
so like when we are like saying that we are turning the switch at t equal to like 90 degree or like t equal to t naught, then sir means what is the reference of t equal to 0? Means generally we have not done any operation prior to switching the circuit. So what will be your reference of t equal to 0?
Okay, this is what everything I am defining with respect to the source voltage waveform. Assume that I know the source voltage waveform and I am turning out a different point of source voltage. Just to understand few basic points, right? And you will understand in later part when we talk about inverter, DC to AC converter. There I'll talk about a concept of PLL, phase lock loop, where I'll be determining actively what is the phase sequence of this voltage waveform, where is this zero crossing, so that I can do some control implementation. Those we'll discuss later. Okay.
So,
Here.
so why did the current waveform behave exactly as a sine wave when we started t/4 time?
See, basically everything I assumed ideal, right? So as soon as I turn on the switch, inductor voltage has to be the supply voltage, right?
Yes.
So its variation in current should follow the variation in supply voltage. It's the DIDT business, integration business basically, right?
Sir, for example, if the switch is turned on at T4, so the whole waveform will be under the x-axis, right?
Yeah, just now interestingly try to turn on at this instant. -0 growing the instant. What will happen? It will become entirely negative, right? It will never see positive value. So those who did not understand physically, I am
only at
telling.
one, right?
Bolo.
Yes, sir. This one, if it is starting at -1, right? When cos omega t naught is -1 only, it remains below the negative, below the 0.
What you are referring by -1? Can you, with respect to this waveform, tell me some angle? 0 degree, 90 degree, 180.
10 pi by 10 or 90 degrees. 90 to
yeah,
minus
this one.
270. Sorry. Minus 270. Sorry. 270 degrees. Sir. 270 degrees.
This one? This one? 90, 90, 80.
Between two. Negative maximum.
This one.
If we start there, it will be. Yes.
It will start from 0 and then it will start current going negative. Then it will follow this graph.
It will remain in the negative.
No. It will start with negative, but eventually it will go to positive from here. Again after a period.
Yeah. Okay.
So let me explain it in a different way. Okay. I mean, how do you let me give you an easier exercise. It might be difficult. Just hold on. Let me help you with an easier example. Then I'll come back to it. All my slides are showing blank. Hold on. Just be patient for 5 minutes. I think I'll be able to clarify how physically you understand this, or rather in a more better visualization. You assume that instead of sinusoidal voltage, I had a square wave voltage source. Then this switch, then this inductor. Okay. So then the square wave voltage waveform looks something like this. Remember, it is a perfect square. These durations are same, t on t of amplitudes are exactly same. And always remember this equation. VL is L di dt. It has to hold good. Then I equal to 1 by L integration VL dt plus I0. Okay. Now you think, I turned on, first case, I turned on at t equal to 0. So initially current was 0 as per our assumption. So before that, IL was 0. Then it starts from here. Remember, it will keep on increasing till I apply positive voltage. Because if I apply positive voltage here, IL has to go up due to this integration, right? Just you solve it, you will understand. For example, if I assume this VL to be a constant value, so it will be V by L, a constant number, integration dt will become t plus I0, right? So how do I plot it? It will have an increasing slope with some I0, whatever I0 I have, isn't it? It will keep on building up. Remember, if voltage is positive, as soon as I start giving a negative voltage, here negative voltage starts. As soon as I give negative voltage, your IL will come down. It will come down till what point? As long as I apply negative voltage. Who decides this slope? It is basically V by L ratio. That is deciding the slope. How long it will go negative? Who decides that? If I apply positive voltage, current will build up. If I apply negative voltage, current will keep on decreasing. If I apply 0 voltage, current will remain at its previous value. This you have to understand from your heart, okay? Without any doubt, these three things. It is not a resistance, remember. Resistance, voltage positive, current positive. Voltage negative, current negative. But here it is not the case. So if I apply a positive voltage to an inductor, positive voltage to L, it current IL will be positive, negative, or 0. What do you think? What will be its answer? Can you answer this?
So is it positive constant voltage or?
Let's say positive constant, any, right? Assume constant. So can I tell my IL will be positive, negative, or 0? Which one is the answer?
So IL will be increasing always.
Exactly. I cannot tell it is whether positive or negative. I can only tell IL has a positive slope. That is important for you understand. This I cannot say. It can be negative, but with a positive IL slope. It can be positive, but important point is, as soon as I apply positive voltage, you will understand. You just solve this equation. As soon as I apply positive voltage, inductor current will have positive voltage. But at any point of time, whether it is positive or negative, that depends on its previous value, right? From where you have started applying positive voltage. So what I'm saying is, you have to spend at least half an hour to visualize all this equation in your mind. It is not, you need not remember anything. So you apply this here, right? This red one was VL. I started with 0. I applied positive voltage, current builds up. It will this slope will depend on V by L. Then I apply negative voltage, it will go down. It will go down, it will reach here exactly, because this slope is also V by L, and this time is exactly same. This is T1, this is also T1. This is also T1, because this is a perfect square wave. Okay, so even though we are giving a AC waveform, next cycle again it will start like this, and again it will come here. Okay, but now take a different case. It is again a perfect square wave, but I started turning on the switch here. So current was 0 initially. Current was 0 initially. Here I apply positive voltage for some time, current will build up. But as soon as I reach this stage, current has to again go down. But after that, it will build up in negative direction. again it will come up. Sorry, this peak will be same as this peak, huh? Also. But if you had turned it on at different instant, let's say I turned on it somewhere here, in between this. So current will look something like this. It will build up. Okay. Then again, it builds up for small amount of time, right? Then for entire this duration, it will go down. So you'll see something like this. Then again, it will keep on building. Right? This will happen. So you'll see, you'll get basically small negative part. You won't get it average value 0. It will have some positive average. This will have 0 average. This will have always positive average. Do you agree on this, or you have any
Sir?
doubt?
What if T positive and T negative are like not the same? So like will the average value keep on increasing?
Can you repeat this again?
I mean the voltage positive time. What if it's like greater than the negative voltage time, so that the average voltage will keep on increasing? I mean current will
I'm
keep on increasing.
very happy that you asked this question. That means you are on the right track. So we'll try to draw it. Huh? Unfortunately, I'm taking too much time, but I think these are very important to discuss. But you have to help me at some other time with some other thing. I'll come back. So what you are saying is, let's say this is the case, is it?
Yes.
So let's say this is 0.6 T, this is 0.4 T, right?
Yes, sir.
But this voltage is V, this voltage is also V. They're same, right?
Yes.
So current will build up like this. It won't be able to come to 0 till this time. Okay. Then next cycle it will build up again like this, Okay. Eventually L will be damaged. Okay. Do you understand this? You're saying same thing, right?
Yeah, exactly, sir.
Exactly. So I think you've understood it. Good. So all these concepts, these are known as volt-second balance, and it will be covered again in module 2 by Professor Shovik Chatwala. Okay. So you again revise this thing there. Okay. Let me stop today. What I wish is that, see, for clearing your doubt, I had to spend a lot of time on this. So you have to help me. And as I told, this first 3 weeks, we are not doing any lab. So those time you have to utilize. Okay. And let me tell you what you should do. Otherwise, we won't be able to start the lab. This PDF is visible to you, the syllabus document. Please confirm quickly.
Yes, sir.
So see, more or less, this thing I'm discussing in class, right? At length. Remember, I'm going into much detail so that you form this basic concept. But this 3, you see video lecture plus PPT. This week, okay? I'll start maybe Wednesday from here. Some other part is remaining. I'll start it from here. Then in next week, you also cover this. All this, because let me repeat you, the most of the thing I'm telling you, these things are not readily available in a single book or somewhere, but most of this will be available. And this you see already video there in my YouTube, right? Plus PPT is already there in MS Team. So you just open the PPT, see the lecture, relate to each other, make your own note, and we'll have tutorial. Plus we'll have 2 tutorial so that you can solve some problem on this switchings. Is that very clear? Before 1st September, I have to complete this module. Otherwise, you won't be able to start the lab. Okay. So I repeat again, this Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, you have 3 hours free because we are not doing lab, and that you have to utilize to go through this diode, SCR, and BJT. This week target. Okay. You complete diode, SCR, BJT. Please note it. Diode, SCR, BJT must be covered using this 3 hour slot. And from where to study, see the YouTube lecture of my channel, and last year PPT is already uploaded, so you know which content is discussed. Is that clear or you need clarification? If I don't hear anything, that means you've understood it, right?
Yes, sir.
So I'll stop recording and we'll start.